So we're discussing person-centered rating scales and developing your skill as a psychotherapist counsellor using the PCT approach. So this tutorial seminar is for educational purposes. It's in no way a replacement for me prescribing medication, nor is it intended to contraindicate or supersede any medically diagnosed conditions or designed to treat anyone or make any recommendations. Learners deploy techniques as part of a treatment plan. This seminar is strictly for educational purposes only. So person-centered rating scales, a scale that was developed by researchers who followed Rogers, Carkhuff and Truax. They developed a 5-point scale. We can use this 5-point scale to judge making empathic, interchangeable responses. The person-centered rating scale is by Truax and Carkhuff. For each core condition, there is a rating from 1 to 5. The rating scale describes counsellor behaviour from not demonstrating core condition attitudes through to strongly demonstrating attitudes. This scale could be used for analysing counselling skills and identifying areas for improvement. So if you get time, you read the rating scales and have a look and have a think. And you can email me or you can Google and find the rating scales. So just on the first sentence to get a feel for how the rating scale for each core condition progresses. But I'll talk more about this as we go along in this seminar as well. So person-centered rating scales are level 1. Level 1 would be a lower level of empathic understanding. For example, if someone said in the therapy session, "I'm sad," and your response, "Well, there's no need to be sad. It's a wonderful world." On the scale, that would demonstrate no empathic understanding. So that would demonstrate no empathic understanding to the emotion that's being expressed by the speaker, by the person. That intervention might be effective, but on Truax and Carkhuff scale, it shows no empathic understanding to the emotion that's being expressed by the person. Level 2 response. It would be detracting something. For example, if someone said in the therapy session, "I'm sad." Well, why do you feel that? You don't have to feel that. And yes, you might be a little sad. Everybody gets sad sometimes. That would be a level 2 response. Level 3 response. A level 3 response would be the goal of empathic listening, an interchangeable response. So if the person said, "I'm sad," and I said as the therapist, "So you're sad," that would be an interchangeable response. If the person says, "I'm down," I could say, "Well, you're sad." And that would be, it could be interchangeable with what the person was expressing. Level 3 responses, the goal of humanistic psychology using Ruggiero method was to keep at that level 3 response. And the reason being, working at level 3 responses, you would know that the conversation would deepen itself. This would release some of the understanding of the potentials of the client. Rogers, and what we saw with Rogers and what we've seen with Rogers in his video footage, and if you haven't seen a lot of Rogers' video footage, you can sort of YouTube some and just see, and you'll see he's basically level 3 interchangeable reciprocal statements of empathic responding. So level 4 response, client says, "I'm sad," and you said, or the therapist says, "You're down, you feel a heavy burden on your shoulders." And possibly there are other feelings that are even reciprocal with that, more complex understanding. Possibly there's some frustration that there and that you're aiming to get on a deeper level of empathic understanding. Level 5 is the pinnacle, even a higher level of empathic understanding, demonstrating the most profound empathic understanding. So what you do, I would strongly recommend to do the following exercise, to watch some videos on Rogers or people doing the humanistic process using the PCT process and see where the counsellor shows empathy, congruence, and UPR, and practice rating the counsellor, or even rate Rogers, for example, from 1 to 5, and put supporting examples and just watch the videos that you see a few times and just see how you adjust the ratings. So it's a really good exercise to use. Just, Google, PCT approach counseling, and sort of have a look and see and go through and see where you think rate each core condition, and Rogers as well. That's going to sort of help you. Also rate yourself. Rate your counseling skills using the scales. For each core condition, what could you have done different to get a higher rating? So you can sort of record your sessions if you're a student counselor, psychotherapist, and then go back over and think, well, I want to rate myself. What could I have done different to get a higher rating? So you find someone to work with in class and you rate the experience that you had as a client with the counselor that you're sitting with, and try and identify examples to support each rating. Compare your ratings with each other. Do the ratings match? What a difference. So, okay, if you're sort of working in a free, just see the different perspectives and sort of talk it through. And that's really good for your development. So rate your skills, rate the person you're observing, or you can record it and play it back and see and have a think about and sort of re-rate it again. In a seminar I attended one time with Dr. Jeff Zeig, who I've trained under for a long time, different things, mainly hypnotherapy. One time we're doing a seminar and he was sort of discussing Rogers, and he gave us an example, Dr. Jeff Zeig, of a level 5 response by Carl Whitaker, who was working with a schizophrenic family. And the schizophrenic patient asked for a cold capsule, and Whitaker says, "How long have your parents been cold towards you?" So that would try to reflect the most deep level of empathic understanding. It was an example by Jeff on a seminar where we were looking at, well, the series of seminars looking at some of the most influential people in the field of psychotherapy, Rogers being one of them, and he sort of mentioned this sort of level 5 response by Whitaker. So the Rogerian method, the PCT method, as we sort of mentioned, is to focus on the level 3 responses, which we'll get in more detail shortly. And the idea is sort of practice, whatever problem or presentation, make that empathic, reflective comment at freeze. It's all about practicing. So no matter what the problem presentation is, the person you're working with, if it's emotional, habitual, cognitive, relational, then just practice working with that, making that empathic, reflective comment, irrespective of what the comment is. So if you sort of see, and I've watched a lot of footage on Rogers on video, and you see him and doing these empathic reflections, not so much about an effect, like, for example, this seems you feel angry, irritated. The statements that generally reflect the complexity of the client situation, in adverse to simple reflective empathic statements about a feeling the client had. So focused on being empathic. So you see these statements reflect the complexity of the client's situation rather than just about the effect, like you feel angry or sad, and so on and so forth. So you sort of see in Rogers and some of the videos I've seen, he gives the clients the opportunity to explore themselves in a non-directive way. So in one video that I saw him working with this woman, he gives the opportunity to explore herself in a non-directive way. So the 3 components to this approach: empathy, genuineness, congruence, and positive regard. Empathy, congruence, positive regard. They're the 3 components we talked about earlier. So you could ask yourself, when you're doing a session and you're practicing, am I being empathic? Am I being congruent? Am I showing positive regard? So you can go back over your session, if you record it, you're observing, you can give feedback to the person you're working with, or even what you could do, and what I done when I've practiced at times, just take a breath and be in the moment when the person expresses themselves, and think, okay, am I being empathic, congruent, regard? And that can be quite useful. So these characteristics to be separated, graded on that 5-point scale, which would make it a researchable model. So is a person being free for empathic, free for congruent, and free positive regard? If so, the core conditions for therapy, according to Rogers, the therapeutic process would evolve itself by doing that. Okay, so practice making simple reflective statements with a friend or in practice. For example, the person you're working with in a session, or a friend might say, I'm having a challenging time at work. Your response might be, you know, it must be really difficult for you. There must be some things that are going on that are quite difficult to sort out. Just showing an empathic understanding of what it is your colleague is going through as a way of entering into the system, so to speak. So practicing an empathic, reflective, listening and non-directive approach.